Welcome to Hikikomori Media's Top 10 Most Anticipated Games of 2015. Number 10, Danganronpa, another episode. So if you watch my top 5 games of 2014, this should come as no surprise to you that I love this series, and this one in particular has my interest because it's a third-person shooter where you play as Makoto's sister, and it takes place somewhere in between Danganronpa 1 and 2. I don't know a whole lot about the story because I've managed to avoid spoilers so far. I really am looking forward to this title, not just for the storyline, but I want to see what Spike Chunsoft does with a third-person shooter type of game. I think this game still hasn't had an official confirmation for localization, but I anticipate it's going to come out somewhere around summer of 2015, and I'm basing that off of absolutely nothing. Number 9, Monster Hunter 4. I've had this game pre-ordered for over a year, and I typically do not pre-order games. I didn't get the fancy pants statue with like the little cat chain on it. No, I just got the vanilla Monster Hunter 4. I still have a regular 3DS, one of the ambassador models, and I think this game is going to make me get either a new 3DS, the new in quotes, at least get a Circle Pad Pro. Honestly, I wish this game would have come out for the Wii U because Monster Hunter 3U was my entry point into the series. You know, I played the original one back in the day, I just didn't get it. My friends really turned me on to the series, and I enjoyed it ever since. I mean, it's the best male fashion show a group of friends could ever participate in. Getting new armor, showing off new weapons. I'm not one to brag, but I'm pretty good at that hunting horn. I'm looking forward to those new insect weapons and all these different little cameo features like Mario and Luigi and the Street Fighter characters. I think I said Street Fighter. I'm cool with that. And I'm really excited to play it again with friends. Number 8, Tokyo Twilight Ghost Hunters. For the PS Vita and PS3, it's kind of one of those Akihabara strip situations. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the story on this one, other than you're some sort of detective agency and you're seeking out all these ghosts. I don't know if it's like a phantom trick type of situation, but I know it has board game elements, and that's enough to pique my interest. I'll probably pick up this title for the PlayStation Vita because I love playing visual novels in bed, you know, maybe an hour or so before I go to sleep. This game comes out in February, which originally was going to be the time where this next game on my list was supposed to release, but it got delayed. Maybe that's for the better.
Break your fast, make your days, pull the trigger, shoot the crimson sky.
Number 7, Bloodborne. I won't be the first person to say that I was highly disappointed by Dark Souls 2. One of my many gripes about that game was it felt like From Software's B team stripped most of the chilling atmosphere and iconic world building out of Dark Souls 2. It just didn't feel like a complete vision in my mind. But hey, credit where it's due. From Software is releasing a patch that's going to introduce dynamic lighting that was stripped out of the game for whatever reason. I think it was just to rush it out. And it's going to re-up some of the resolutions and fix some of the frame rate issues and a whole other mess of problems. I think it's also introducing some new DLCs. So it seems like we're going to get another complete version of Dark Souls 2, which probably belongs on this list because I am a little excited about it. But let's get to Bloodborne. Those missing elements that I missed in Dark Souls 2 are making their return in Bloodborne for the PS4. I was very hyped when I went to the Sony experience in my hometown. We went to this theater and we got to see the announcement trailer for Bloodborne. And you see this dark, murky, smoky atmosphere of kind of like an old English town, and you see this big blade cutting into these dogs. And this game presents itself as a very fast-paced version of Dark Souls, or the Soul series in general. And that's what I feel like has been missing in the challenge area. Most of Dark Souls, despite the popular belief, is actually pretty easy once you get it going. I mean, I think the biggest challenge in Dark Souls is the patience element. And once you get past patience, you can grind and be able to take on any enemy or throw on Havel's armor and ring set. Any new player should do fine. However, Bloodborne looks like it requires you to adapt and survive. It is fast-paced, there's fire, there's a lot of jumping, and it doesn't seem like blocking is going to be the big thing that keeps you alive in this one. I highly anticipate this. I honestly don't know why this isn't my number 1, but once you see my number 1, I guess it does make a little bit more sense. Number 6, Final Fantasy XIII Versus. 15. This would be my slot where I'd post The Last Guardian. For the past 4 or 5 years, I've been waiting for that game. Same as news about, Final Fantasy Versus 13, but I'm kind of glad they decided to scrap the 13 world aspect or connection. What do they call it? The Novalis Crystallis or something series. I'm glad they decided to make it its own thing because this looks like a more modernized Final Fantasy. It takes place more in a kind of a real world. I guess there's still some airships and giant monsters and stuff, but that's kind of why I like Final Fantasy VIII's world so much, is that it kind of grounded a little bit in reality. Like, I even like those little details where you could get an actual car and fill it up with gas and then, just driving around the world. It seems like they've brought back those little chewing the atmosphere, chewing the scenery of moments into the world. I don't know necessarily how I feel about the combat. It doesn't make a lot of sense when I look at it. I don't know if you're just triggering commands or QTEs and your character's just flying at the monsters, or if it's going to play something like Final Fantasy XII. In my mind, the perfect combat would be somewhere between an open action like Nier or a confined action like Kingdom Hearts. Somewhere around that line would be great for me. I am probably going to go for Final Fantasy Type O remaster just so I can play the demo of this one. My expectations have been so low about the Final Fantasy series after 13 that I think really any step is going to be a step in the right direction as long as it's not in that automatic battle system. I'm just not a fan of that. I guess I won't apologize for that because I don't think a lot of people were a fan of 13's battle system. Number 5, Hotline Miami 2, Wrong Number. I was instantly drawn to the neon noir, 80s action-inspired Hotline Miami original with its fast-paced gameplay and its homage to the original Grand Theft Auto series. Not Grand Theft Auto 3 and beyond. I'm talking about the original top-down Grand Theft Auto series. The fast gameplay, its commentary about how we consume violence in our media and all this other, pretentious shit. I loved every bit of it. It's a game that I consistently go back to every year or ever so often, and I've been playing it quite a bit on the Vita. It just feels at home on the Vita, and I think even though I have a PC, PS3, PS4, all these other systems that can run Hotline Miami 2, the Vita just feels the place to play Hotline Miami. It's got dual analog sticks, the OLED makes all the colors pop. I'm looking forward to the storyline. I hope it's not as neutered as I anticipate it will be because it seems like the developer, the guy's wearing an ascot. I think he really cares what people think about him and he's afraid of offending the moral majority. I want this game to be brutal. I want this game to be brutal and unapologetic as ever. Violent, fast-paced. I want new masks and the different dynamics of each of the 4 characters I believe you play as. I want those to just really outshine the original. I don't think Devolver Digital will let us down. Number 4. Metal Gear 5, The Phantom Pain. This was extremely difficult for me to put on the list because I've been a little frustrated, a little more than frustrated with Konami and many of their practices. I miss their E3 conferences, or at least a presence at E3. What the fuck happened to Tak Fuji outside of cancer?
Not funny.
Why isn't he leading the charge of every Konami press event?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's because he quit Konami and he's moving on to better things. But it seems like outside of Metal Gear and now the upcoming Silent Hills, there's nothing really to look forward from this company anymore. So, we're milking Metal Gear 5, and what better way to bring it in with, some fresh talent. I miss David Hayter. I miss him a lot. I think maybe he'll come back as Solid Snake in the future. But I'm gonna get used to Kiefer Sutherland just so I can play through this game. I really want a connection to Metal Gear Solid, or at least Metal Gear on the MSX. I want to see how Solid Snake and Liquid Snake, or the Le Enfant Terrible, or the Super Baby Project comes into play. I want to see what makes Big Boss into the giant villain, or if he's just playing the role of villain for the greater good, which is what I assume he's doing. I think Skullface is going to be maybe one of the craziest antagonists ever seen. I recently played through Peace Walker, and yes, I did play through that paid demo, Ground Zeroes. But you know what? I had a good time, and I don't think any other game is set to win as many Game of the Year awards as this one probably will. And I'm looking forward to how it will probably piss off many of the SJWs this year. And that's a very selfish reason for wanting to play a game, but that's the kind of person I am.
Number 3.
I'm giving this to 2 games, just because I was very surprised to see it return to the survival horror adventure genre. There's a sudden resurgence. The original Clock Tower team is coming out with this game called Project Scissors, and I guess it got its official title. It's called Night Cry, and there's not a lot of footage or news about it other than it's coming out for the iOS, PS Vita, and PS4, I believe. So it seems like it's going to be a digital-only title. There hasn't been a Clock Tower game in the series since Clock Tower 3. I guess you could count Haunting Ground or Demento in the PAL territories, but there's just been something missing. It seems like all these survival horror games have gone for a more Resident Evil action style of game where you have a whole military barracks of weaponry and roided out arms, and you're punching boulders and doing kickflips and all this stuff. I just want an original survival horror game where you go out there, you're helpless, and maybe strength isn't your best asset. Intelligence and quick thinking is the solution to escape your problems. And the other game that takes my number 3 is this new game that came out of nowhere called Until Dawn. Now, it seems like it's going to be completely like QTE based, which I'm not always the biggest fan of. At the same time, it seems like it's a choose your own adventure, or quickly think on your feet because the serial killer is coming in the next room. I don't know a whole lot about what the story is or why there's this dude in the clown mask coming after you. Honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. It looks scary. It looks fun. Hopefully, it comes out in an episodic fashion, because I feel like maybe that would be the best avenue for this type of genre. Number 2, Xenoblade Chronicles X, or Project X, or whatever it's going to end up being called. It's a new Xenoblade game. Instead of having a linear story where you're playing as prescribed protagonists like Shulk, who wasn't that bad, you get an avatar that you create on your own, and you go out into this big, vast, it seems like a seamless world, just like Xenoblade on the Wii. All the areas already loaded for you. You just roam around, or you hop in a mech and you fly away, and you're hunting dinosaurs or giant monsters and going on missions. I know a lot of people criticize some of the animated cutscenes and the graphics, even though they kind of look like Xeno's Saga on the PS2. I'm completely okay with that. It seems like they focus more on the gameplay. It looks like an offline MMO, kind of like the Dot Hack series, or Xenoblade Chronicles. I've been waiting for this game. It was one of the main reasons why I was just like, I've got to get a Wii U, and I did. It was because I have complete faith in Monolith Software. So I think it's going to be possibly one of the games that brings all the hardcore RPG fans to the console, if nothing else will. And number 1, of course, Yakuza V. How could I leave this off of the list? I was gonna put Let It Die by Suda51 on here. It seems like he gave up his original vision of Lily Bergamo. I don't know if I have enough faith in Let It Die to take my number 1 spot. I'm just gonna wait and see. Yakuza 5, I have no doubts, will be the game that I most play this year. I know it's coming out digital only, and it'll probably be around $59.99, but you know what? I'm gonna let it slide. I'm so happy this game is finally getting a Western release. It looks like the biggest, baddest, most action-packed Yakuza game in the entire series. You can hunt bears and fight them and do little dance-offs, and you run a little taxi cab and rickshaw company. What more could you really want out of this series? This game gives you what you want and things you didn't know you want until you've played them before, with the exception of Dead Souls. Not exactly the biggest fan of that one. Yakuza V is the game I've wanted most. I've wanted it for over 2 years now. I even bought the Japanese copy, and I've played the first area. There's like 5 big cities you get to visit through China and Japan, and it seems like this will have the most content out of any Yakuza, and buying this is supporting good Sega properties. It's giving Sega a heads up saying, we should get Yakuza 0 over here, and maybe Ishin, whatever further iteration of the Yakuza series. Maybe a binary domain too. But yeah, these are my top 10 most anticipated games of 2015. I don't know if I'll have the chance to play them all with my backlog being as it is, but I'm looking forward to checking them all out and having some good conversations, and maybe gaming isn't dead after all. Maybe. Alright, so if you like my taste in games and we're like soulmates or something, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share my videos. I want to keep making them, so please bring in your friends, or bring in people who like to talk about Japanese influenced games, because that's what I specialize in. Maybe I might do some more analysis and reviews and stuff later. Alright, bye.
If you just continue to press the same button like X, 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 and Y, 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 and X, X, and Y, Y, Y again, you'll be sucked.